Imagine growing up in a city where the winters bite and the radio pulses with funk. That was Minneapolis in the 1,970 seconds. And that's where Prince Rogers Nelson, yes. Prince was born in 1958. He was the son of jazz pianist John L. Nelson and jazz singer Mattie Shaw, so music was woven into his DNA. What does it mean to have music at the dinner table? For Prince, it meant learning piano at age 7, writing his own songs by 10, and soaking up everything from Jimi Hendrix to Sly Stone. Synthesizer and rhythm section became part of his everyday vocabulary. Now you might be thinking, was Prince always destined for stardom? The truth is, he faced plenty of obstacles, including his parents' divorce and bouncing between homes. But music was his anchor, his escape, and eventually, his rocket ship out of Minneapolis. Let me tell you, Minneapolis wasn't just a backdrop, it became Prince's laboratory. The city's unique blend of rock, R&B, and emerging punk scenes shaped his genre-blurring style. So, before he was a global icon, Prince was a local prodigy, learning, struggling, absorbing, and that relentless curiosity set the stage for everything to come. How do you go from basement demos to signing a record deal? For a teenage Prince, it took audacity, a homemade demo tape, and a relentless drive. By 19, he'd inked a deal with Warner Brothers, records an almost unheard-of feat for an unsigned, unproven artist from the Midwest. And get this, Prince negotiated for complete creative control, something called artistic autonomy, insisting he produce and write every track himself. It was a radical move, especially considering most new artists were micromanaged by A&R executives. Now you might ask, was he ready for that kind of responsibility? Prince was more than ready. He famously played 27 instruments on his debut album, For You, released in 1978. But here's the obstacle. The record label was skeptical. Could a teenager really deliver? Prince's solution: work obsessively, sleeping in the studio, and perfecting every detail. That debut didn't top charts, but it set the blueprint for a career defined by independence, risk-taking, and technical brilliance. The industry had never seen anything quite like him. Fast forward to 1979. Prince releases his self-titled second album. That's where things really take off. The single I Wanna Be Your Lover soared up the Billboard Hot 100, introducing millions to his falsetto vocals and funky bass lines. What set him apart? It wasn't just catchy hooks, it was his fearless approach to genre. He blended synth pop and Minneapolis sound, a mix of funk, rock, and disco, like no one else. Let's pause here. Imagine hearing that track for the first time on your local FM radio. The beat is infectious, but so is the attitude, confident, mysterious, a little bit androgynous. Critics didn't know what to make of him. Was he the next Stevie Wonder, the new Hendrix? Prince defied easy comparisons, and that was exactly his point. If you ever doubted lightning could strike twice, just remember, Prince was only 21 and already rewriting pop's rulebook. Let's talk about 1980's Dirty Mind. Prince shocked America with frank lyrics and raw sexuality, packaged in punchy new wave and funk. The album's stripped-down production, think just a drum machine and a Lin LM1, was revolutionary. Now, you might be wondering, did the controversy hurt his career? Quite the opposite. It cemented his status as a provocateur, willing to tackle taboo topics and challenge musical norms. 1982 brought 1999, a double LP packed with dance floor anthems and existential themes. Tracks like Little Red Corvette pushed his pop appeal, while the title song became an instant party classic. Synthesizers and drum programming became his trademark. The conflict. Some radio programmers balked at the explicit content, but Prince's boldness resonated with a generation hungry for change. Resolution. The albums drew critical raves, expanded his audience, and set the stage for global superstardom. Once again, Prince turned risk into reward. Picture this. It's 1984, and Purple Rain explodes onto the scene not just as an album but as a film. Prince becomes a household name overnight. The soundtrack delivers chart toppers like When Doves Cry and Let's Go Crazy. What made Purple Rain a cultural earthquake? It fused rock guitar solos with gospel harmonies and symphonic arrangement, a musical melting pot. The album spent 24 weeks atop the Billboard 200. Let me tell you a story. At the movie's Minneapolis premiere, fans lined up around the block. The film, a semi-autobiographical tale of struggle and redemption, won him an Oscar for Best Original Song Score. Now you might ask, was it just hype? Not at all. Purple Rain sold over 25 million copies worldwide and inspired a generation of musicians. Resolution. Prince wasn't just a pop star. He was a phenomenon, reimagining what a musician could be. Let's zoom in on Prince's legendary backing band, The Revolution. Unlike typical session musicians, they were creative partners who helped shape the Minneapolis sound on stage and in the studio. Ever heard of ensemble synergy? That's what Prince and The Revolution delivered. Drummer Bobby Z's steady groove and Wendy Melvoin's guitar textures became crucial to Prince's evolving sound. Now you might be thinking, wasn't Prince a notorious control freak? True, but he was also a relentless collaborator, constantly pushing his band to improvise and innovate. Conflict arose as Prince's ambitions grew, sometimes leading to tension or sudden firings, but that friction pushed everyone to new heights. By the mid-1980s, The Revolution wasn't just a backup band, they were musical equals, shaping one of pop's most dynamic legacies. After Purple Rain, most artists would coast. Not Prince. He released Around the World in a Day in 1985, swapping guitar thunder for psychedelic pop and lush orchestration. Critics were baffled. Was he abandoning his hit formula? Now you might wonder, did fans stick around? Some did, some didn't. But Prince doubled down, following up with Parade and the hit single Kiss, which showcased sparse funk and falsetto. Here's the conflict. Commercial expectations versus creative exploration. Prince chose the latter, releasing daring, genre-defying albums that sometimes puzzled the mainstream. The albums didn't always match Purple Rain's sales, but the artistic growth was undeniable. Resolution. Prince proved, again and again, that he'd rather challenge himself and his audience than repeat past glories. 1993. Prince does the unthinkable. He changes his name to an unpronounceable love symbol. Why? This was more than a publicity stunt. It was a protest against Warner Brothers, records over creative ownership and master recordings. You may ask, why would a superstar battle his own label? Simple. Prince believed artists should control their work and fought against restrictive contracts. The fine print known as recoupment clauses kept profits from creators. During these years, fans and media dubbed him the artist formerly known as Prince. It created confusion, but also kept him in the headlines. The conflict here? Maintaining artistic freedom versus mainstream visibility. Some fans struggled with the name change, but Prince stood his ground. Resolution. Prince's battle set the stage for future artists to demand control. forever changing the music industry's rules on intellectual property. As the 90 seconds dawned, Prince surrounded himself with a new band, the New Power Generation, and dove into hip-hop fusion and New Jack Swing. His sound was grittier, lyrics more direct, and performances edgier. Have you ever heard Cream or Get Off? These hits showed Prince could adapt to shifting musical landscapes, incorporating rap verses and digital sampling. Here's the challenge. Staying relevant in a decade dominated by grunge and gangster rap, Prince responded by embracing change, but never at the expense of his core artistry. Some critics wrote him off as past his prime, but he continued releasing albums at a dizzying pace, often direct to fans, bypassing traditional labels. Resolution. Through reinvention, Prince remained a creative force, always one step ahead of pop culture's curve. Before iTunes and Spotify, Prince was already experimenting with digital distribution and online fan clubs. In 1997, he released Crystal Ball exclusively online, a move that baffled the industry. Why did he do this? Well, Prince wanted to control how and when his music reached fans, cutting out the middleman entirely. It was a direct challenge to music business orthodoxy. You might ask, did this strategy work? It had mixed results. Sales weren't blockbuster, but Prince proved artists could thrive outside label systems. Remember, terms like compressed audio and digital rights management were foreign to most in the late 90 seconds. Prince was miles ahead. Resolution. Years later, the whole industry followed his lead. Streaming, downloads, direct fan engagement, all pioneered by Prince. The turn of the millennium saw yet another Prince comeback. Albums like Musicology and 3121 debuted near the top of the charts, fueled by inventive distribution partnerships and surprise club shows. One jaw-dropping moment: his 2007 Super Bowl halftime show, a medley culminating in Purple Rain as actual rain fell on stage. It's widely considered the best Super Bowl performance ever. Now, you might ask, was Prince coasting on nostalgia? Absolutely not. He kept mentoring younger artists, advocating for artists' rights, and exploring jazz, rock, and soul. The conflict, balancing his legendary status with a restless urge to innovate. He never stopped moving forward. Resolution. When Prince died in 2016, he left behind a staggering catalog, both released and unreleased, that continues to inspire and surprise. So, what's Prince's true legacy? Beyond the albums and the mystique, it's his role as a pioneer of gender fluidity and genre hybridity. Artists from Beyoncé to The Weeknd cite him as a blueprint. Let me ask, how many musicians can claim mastery of multi-instrumentalism and business innovation? Very few. And Prince's activism around copyright law has changed the way artists navigate the industry. Still, his influence transcends music, fashion, film, identity. He broke barriers everywhere. His purple aesthetic and cryptic persona remain iconic. You might be wondering, isn't it impossible to summarize a legacy this vast? Maybe so. But every time a new artist blurs boundaries or takes control of their art, Prince's spirit lives on. Resolution. In the end, Prince didn't just change pop music, he changed what it meant to be an artist in the modern age.